I look at this, and it's a little confusing. I read the Message version for you. It might clear up a little things, because welcome this, welcome that. We are intimately linked in this harvest work. Anyone who accepts what you do accepts me, the one who sent you. Anyone who accepts what I do accepts my Father who sent me. Accepting a messenger of God is as good as being God's messenger. Accepting someone's help is as good as giving someone help. This is a large work I've called you into, but don't be overwhelmed by it. It's best to start small. Give a cool cup of water to someone who is thirsty, for instance. The smallest act of giving or receiving makes you a true apprentice. You won't lose out on a thing. They say the smallest act, reading something, saying back in those days when we think of it, giving a cup of cold water to someone who comes in, no problem. You go in the fridge, you grab your Brita filtered water, you give them a cold drink of water. Back then, you didn't really have that. So if you wanted cold water, what you needed to do was walk to the well and dip your bucket in, hopefully deep, and hopefully the water there will be cold. So you haul that all up, and you fill your jug, you carry your jug home, and then you can give cold water. So it's really not a small act. And if they're saying a small act even to a small child, that's big stuff. Children back then didn't have much status at all. So you're giving a cup of cold water to a child, that's really something. I mean, that's hospitality, really. When they say welcoming to others, I think it's welcoming as if the other was Christ himself. We think about hospitality, examples of that. And I remember seeing last fall, a year ago maybe, the Broadway musical Far From Away. If you're familiar with that true story of 9/11 and everything was shut down, planes were diverted from coming into New York or anywhere in the United States. And so planes were diverted, and one town was opened up, Gander, Newfoundland. Population Cedarburg, 11,000 plus. And as it's told, there were 38 planes that landed in this small town. The number of people equaling about Saukville plus Thiensville. So about 7,000 people. So you can imagine the population of Gander supporting, over half as many people. But they made it work. Like Cedarburg, they had an indoor rink. Of course, they're Canada. Everybody's got a skating rink in their town. So that was their freezer refrigerator. People stocked up on everything. I mean, the shelves were cleared out from all the use. People were cooking. People were housing other people. It didn't matter who they were. They were just people in need. And for quite a while there, they welcomed everybody into their town. They screened them pretty heavily at the airport, but they were the guests. And so they gave them tours. They did whatever you would do, just bent over backwards. And you ask them and said, why are you making such a big deal of it? Isn't it the way it's supposed to be? Isn't that the way it is? No, not really. To that extent, not really so much. Giving a cup of cold water to a child, bringing in 7,000 people in the town of Cedarburg to feed and clothe and give whatever they needed. It was a welcome that, in many different levels, we can welcome the stranger in who has a flat tire and it's winter. You welcome them in, you have a meal with them, you help them change their tire if they need to, house them for a night, whatever that may be, and then they can go in the morning, or whatever that means. But then there's a deeper level too. Once you've welcomed somebody into your home, that's kind of a generic, kind of a outer welcome. It's very much needed. But then you go deeper. And you've heard it in many times at weddings. You know, the father of the bride will talk and say, we welcome so-and-so into our family. And you hear that more and more. And so it is at a much deeper level than just strictly, here's a cup of water, thanks for coming in. And so Jesus is saying, you know, you never know who's going to be knocking at your door. And you treat everybody with respect. The people from Newfoundland and Gander didn't care if they were straight or gay, they were black, white, they're from the Middle East, they're from wherever. It just didn't matter. They saw people in need, and they welcomed that, and they welcomed them without any kind of stigma or anything like that. So it's a welcome at a much deeper level. And I think Jesus is continually trying to get his disciples to look beyond just, here's a cup of cold water and move on. It starts with that. And from there, even the people who visited with Newfoundland, just in a short amount of time, develop deep, deep friendships or relationships. And they go back. It's been 16 or 17 years. More than that. But they go back and they visit their friends now. There's such meaning there. And Jesus is saying to his disciples, make sure that you remember that I am the one who is continuing to deepen your welcome, continuing to deepen the relationship that you have with me and with each other. And that's really important. And remember that. To show love is to welcome. And to welcome is to be in part of God's family, part of God's world and life. Amen.